Well, hello everybody. I am Rachel Malone, Texas Director of Gun Owners of America, and I'm sitting here today with John Francis. And John, you are running for state rep here in Texas.
Rep, that's correct.
In House District?
House District 60.
Awesome. So I'm super excited about this, about sharing this with you. John and I have been sitting here talking about gun rights and issues. He has 4 particular issues on gun rights that he wants to push when he gets in the Texas House next spring, after he makes the runoff in the general election. But thanks for taking the time out of your busy schedule to have this chat with me.
Oh, for sure.
I'm kind of taking it that the Second Amendment and the right to keep and bear arms is kind of important to you.
It's very important to me.
Good.
I think it's the most important thing. It's one of my most important issues, and the reason is that of all of our rights, the Second Amendment to me is the most important because it's the one that protects all of our other God-given rights.
Right,
so
right, exactly, and that's why we can't lose that one, because we lose the ability to fight tyranny on so many levels.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's definitely not about hunting. I think the right to keep and bear arms helps me protect myself from the hypothetical bad guy.
Right.
But it's not limited to that, is it?
No, it's definitely not. The whole purpose of the Second Amendment was to protect against a tyrannical government. And our founding fathers were brilliant. They knew, I mean, they literally lived it. They knew exactly why they were doing it. And it was to protect themselves from tyranny on a governmental level. And for people to think that it couldn't happen to us is it's just wrong. All you have to do is just look at Virginia, what they're doing right now. And it's coming. And the bottom line is the leftists, the liberals, they've showed their hand. They know they're showing us exactly what they want. And
yeah,
we have to stop them, period. Somebody's got to push back against it. And I am absolutely going to stop what they're doing.
Yeah, so I get asked all the time if I'm aware that Bloomberg and the anti-gunners are trying to target Texas. And trust me, I am well aware. And that's why we're excited to help to be endorsing candidates, to have candidates who are running, whom we can endorse, who actually stand strong. And you're probably aware, it's not easy to earn a GOA endorsement. It's not just everybody who checks the box of, yes, I am pro-gun. It's not somebody who says the words. It's somebody who GOA really, truly believes is going to fight and be an advocate for those rights.
Right. Well, I've been in this fight for a long time. It's been behind the scenes, but I've never run for office before. This is the first time I've actually run for office, but this is a serious issue to me, and I take it very seriously. So makes me curious. What inspired you to run for office right now, this time around? So we've got a great representative right now. He's a conservative, but he decided to not run for re-election.
Okay.
And he was listed, I think, maybe the 4th most conservative member of the House, but he decided at the last minute to not run. And I thought, man, we've got to keep that legacy going and make sure that this is one of the most conservative districts in the whole state. I'm really proud of that.
Right.
I want to make sure that we have somebody that's willing to go and actually fight for the values that we have, and I'm a fighter.
Awesome. So one of the things that is quite disturbing is, yes, this is one of the most conservative districts, I believe, in Texas.
It is, yeah.
And not only are they pro-gun, they're they really understand constitutional carry, and they want you to fight for guns. They want their representative to fight for gun rights all the way.
That's right. Yep.
But what really is troubling is, I believe your opponent actually doesn't even support actual true constitutional carry and other issues. So I think that's why it's so important that you are running here in this election. I'm glad that you've stepped up to do that.
Well, I appreciate it. I was really shocked. We were on a public stage. This is all public. And by the way, he's done it repeatedly and made the point very clearly and repeatedly and very publicly and on the record that he believes that we need to have required training. Well, I'm sorry, but
that's the antithesis of constitutional carry. You can't say constitutional carry, but also have a government requirement first.
Yeah, I don't want my daughter and my wife to have to go through some kind of a training class to be able to carry we're lawful citizens. And by the way, that's all constitutional carry is. It says if you're legally able to own a firearm, that you ought to be able to carry it. And
right.
It's just that simple, without having some kind of government mandated, training class or fees. It's just ridiculous. And so the differences between my opponent and me could not be any clearer. And I'm proud of where I stand. I haven't changed my position, nor will I.
Right. And I appreciate that so much. As a grassroots gun rights lobbyist, I need people who are going to stand and have conviction to work with in the legislature. And that really brings us to the 4 things that you've pledged and committed that you will advocate for in the Texas legislature regarding gun rights. And the first is constitutional carry.
That's correct.
So constitutional carry, isn't it just stupid and ridiculous how so many of our neighboring states have constitutional carry and so many other states do and Texas doesn't?
Yeah, it's pretty strange to me that you can literally go north of the Red River and walk all the way to the Canadian border and carry a sidearm legally, constitutional carry. But if you go south of the Red River, all the way to Mexico, you are in deep trouble. And it's embarrassing to me. I think that, Texas has, like you said earlier, Texas has a reputation for being super pro-gun rights. But the truth is, the Austin lobby is very powerful. And we've got a Republican governor, we've got a Republican, majority in the Senate and also in the House. And yet we still don't have constitutional carry. And the only explanation that I have for it is that the Austin lobby, the gun grabbers, the gun rights people, are very powerful, and we've got to stand up against them.
Yeah, and just to be clear, because I don't necessarily love I use terms, but sometimes they can result in confusion. So just to be clear, constitutional carry means if you're not prohibited from possessing that handgun,
that's right,
you can carry that handgun without a license in public, without asking the government for permission, without a government training requirement.
That's right.
Obviously, it's a good idea to go get training, and we want people to be safe, but that's a matter of personal responsibility.
That's exactly right. Yeah, I don't want to have my daughters and my wife have to go get some kind of a class and have a government entity tell them, no, you're not proficient enough at this handgun to be able to carry it. I think it's anyway, I'm going to fight against it. We need to absolutely actually pass constitutional carry.
We do,
it's
because
time.
all that is
time.
getting rid of it's getting rid of the current gun control law on the books in Texas. So
That's
absolutely
right.
time for that.
Yep.
So constitutional carry number one. The second issue that you bring up that you're committed to is ending the so-called gun-free zones.
Yeah, I don't think that they're not gun-free zones. First of all, the only people, I mean,
Right.
by definition, if you're a criminal, you're not paying attention to the law. Right, so the only people that are not carrying in a gun-free, in other words, it's one of the most dangerous zones, if you want to call it that, on the planet. It's terrifying to me that that the government has said no, you can't bring a firearm into this particular area. Well, where do you think the criminals are going to go? Nobody's being protected. It's terrifying. I think we need to end it. I've started to call gun-free zones victim zones because that's exactly what they are.
Exactly what they are. That's true. And there's a reason that well over 90% of mass shootings, as they're defined, happen in the so-called gun-free zones.
Yeah,
Isn't that ironic?
Yeah, you might notice that in gun stores they don't have mass shootings. Yeah, anybody ever notice that? There's a reason.
Yeah, and we can kind of chuckle over the irony, but at the end of the day, I'm not chuckling. At the end of the day,
it's deadly serious.
I am sad. I am so grieved that there are people in my state who the government mandates be defenseless in the areas where they work, in the areas where they go to school. That's outrageous, and all of Texas should be outraged at that enough that we get it fixed.
Yeah, it makes me angry.
Yeah,
sure does.
Absolutely. So we covered constitutional carry, getting rid of the gun-free zones, and some of the gun-free zones would definitely a huge one that comes to mind is schools. That's where
absolutely
so many of our kids go every single day, just about, and they're defenseless.
Yeah.
So that's a major issue. I know last year we had a bill that nobody in the House actually agreed to file, though we did get it filed in the Senate. That would have said all it said is we're going to extend college campus carry to K through 12 schools essentially, and say if you have a license, you can carry concealed in a school. So that's the bare minimum.
Right.
And nobody would file it. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm not there yet. But when I do get there, I would love to
You're not in
file
Austin,
that.
is what you mean.
I'm not in Austin.
But you're there philosophically.
I'm absolutely there.
Absolutely.
Let me be very clear.
Yes.
If I'm elected, I would be happy to file that.
And that's
makes
awesome.
perfect
And
sense.
that's the kind of representative we need. Not just somebody who gives us a vote on the floor if we can manage to get it there, but somebody will help us get it there and fight for it.
Yeah, there's a big difference between being in favor of something and advocating for something. I'm a advocate for the Second Amendment in everything that stands for.
Yeah, and I've seen so many representatives say that, publicly say they support something, but privately fight against it because they don't want to have to vote on it.
Right.
And that's the last thing we need.
Well, I can't wait to actually vote on it. So
Awesome.
if that helps.
Awesome. We're gonna count on you. We need to get you over the finish line there. So moving on, the third item that you mentioned is opposing any and all gun registration efforts, both from liberals and from the weak-kneed Republicans, which I appreciate that
Yeah.
as well. And you include expanded background checks in there, which I think is very important to understand, because I've seen, you and I were discussing this earlier, what happened last year after the attacks, where Lieutenant Governor Patrick and others started picking up the idea of expanding background checks. So right now when you go and purchase a gun from a federal firearms dealer, you have to get a background check because it's federal law. But Texas law doesn't have a requirement for the private gun sales. And they started saying, you know what, when you sell a gun to a stranger, but maybe not to a friend or family, you need to get that background check. And what they are not admitting is that's definitely a step to gun registration, and there are just so many other evils as well with the idea of background checks.
So my opinion is that, and I don't know, I think it's a fact that if you give these people an inch, they take a mile. They're never done, and we know exactly where it leads. The bottom line is they want to confiscate guns, and every single step that they take is along specifically towards that goal.
Yeah.
And I'm not willing to give them an inch. As a matter of fact, I want to push back against them.
Yeah.
So it
See,
really is just
that's
that
an
simple.
important point, because so much of the time people say, well, let's just fight against gun control. And that's good. We need that. But we already have gun control in Texas.
Right.
It's time
If
to
they
get
would
rid of
just
it.
follow the law that we already have, things would be a lot better. Concentrate on actually trying to find and stop criminals rather than law-abiding citizens. Why do they constantly have to focus on me as a law-abiding citizen and the guns that I have? I'm not the threat. The threat is it's coming from the criminals, and we need to focus on that. I have no problem focusing on the criminals.
Yeah, we already have a law that says don't murder.
Right. The criminals aren't following the law. That's the definition of somebody that's a criminal. So anyway, I just wish that they would put as much emphasis on actually stopping criminals that they do on stopping law-abiding citizens. I'm thrilled to find other people that are carrying in Walmart and in Target and all these different, if they were able to carry at a theme park, it'd make me, nobody could be happier.
Right.
Because
that makes us safer as a state.
It makes me safer, it makes my kids safer, and frankly, I think that it's something that needs to happen. We need to take the lead in Texas, and it's embarrassing to me that we haven't.
Absolutely, same here. I've been working on it for a number of sessions, and I want to move stuff forward. I'm tired of waiting. It's definitely time to. And I do want to move on to your fourth item, the final item on your short list of gun rights items.
Right.
Red flag laws. You said you'll fight against red flag laws or anything that looks similar.
Absolutely.
And that I am glad you included that there,
Yeah.
because when they first came out with the idea of really pushing it hard a couple years ago, that was after Sutherland Springs and the tragedies there. I was able to gather enough gun rights activists to go to the Capitol and demonize the words red flag laws.
Right. So they
But of
changed
course,
the wording.
That's exactly what they do. They pop right back with the same plan under a different name.
Yeah. So we've got to be vigilant and make sure that the whole concept of red flag laws has got to go. It's unconstitutional. It's against due process. I think it's disgusting, and it's so rife for fraud. And somebody's upset with you, and they call an anonymously file a complaint against you, and the next thing you know, you've lost your gun rights. It's ridiculous, and
Yeah.
we just need to be vigilant. I don't care what they call it. The whole concept is unconstitutional. We need to make sure that we're staying vigilant.
Yeah, and just to be clear what we're talking about, you may have a different definition, but I define red flag laws as a means for government to take away your guns before you've committed a crime.
That's right. Right, on the accusation of who knows who they are, And anyway, it's a
Right.
terribly dangerous thing.
Let me ask you this. I've heard from some people, including elected officials, that, we're going to push red flag laws with due process. We're going to make sure our red flag laws have due process. What do you think about that?
I don't trust these people at all. Zero. I don't trust them. They say one thing and then but that's not what they mean.
The best I can figure is they mean we're still going to let the government take away your guns before you commit a crime. We're just going to make sure you have an attorney there and you get to be present when that happens.
Yeah. No, we've already got laws on the books, and the red flag laws need to go.
Yeah,
the whole concept needs to go.
It's innocent until proven guilty is what we're built on, and we can't get away from that.
That's right.
We can't get away from that. I got to tell you, I am so grateful, and it's very refreshing to have this conversation.
Yeah.
This is the kind of philosophy and not just the philosophy and understanding. Well, start with the philosophy and understanding that we need at the Capitol and Austin, our legislators, but we need the determination to take action too.
Absolutely. I want to say one last thing,
sure.
and that is that I've given this a lot of thought. I'm pro-life and I'm pro-Second Amendment, and so many of these issues, they all roll up into a bigger issue, and I've given this a lot of thought. I really believe that the bigger issue for all these ideas, is the protection of the innocent. And really, it goes to less government and, constrained government, which is the system that we have. And the protection of the innocent is such an important concept. It's a biblical concept, but it relates to everything that we're talking about today, and also in the pro-life sphere. The protection of the innocent is so critically important to our society, to Western civilization, and I'm laser focused on making sure that the innocent get protected.
Right.
And that goes to it even includes taxpayer-funded lobbying. I mean, it's the protection of the innocent. So people get abused oftentimes by the government, or they get abused by individuals. And these things are all related to the protection of the innocent. And I just think it's a super important thing that we're vigilant in making sure that the innocent get protected.
So let me just ask you this, devil's advocate here. What would you say to somebody who says, "Oh, but you know what? All these government programs and laws, they're all about protecting the innocent."
Yeah, and how's that worked out?
That's a very good point.
Yeah.
That's a very good point. Say right back at the gun-free zones issue.
That's exactly right.
Government attempts at supposedly helping, they don't work. It's got to be a personal responsibility thing. We have to be empowered to take responsibility for ourselves.
One of the most important things we could do, period, is to teach our young people, our sons and our daughters, the importance of the Second Amendment, the importance of protecting the innocent. I've told all my kids, I've got 2 sons, and I taught them that there are 3 kinds of people in the world. There are sheep, there are wolves, and then there's us, the sheepdogs. And I believe it. I've been teaching my kids that, and that's the attitude that I'm gonna bring in Austin.
Awesome. Well, as I mentioned, you are endorsed fully by Gun Owners of America, by our chairman, Tim Macy.
Yep.
I'm looking forward to seeing you. Is there anything you'd like to share with people listening who may be your constituents, or anywhere else in the state about your campaign, or anything related to the election?
Well, I'll just say this, there's 150 representatives, 150 districts in the state of Texas. HD 60 is one of the most conservative in the entire state. I'm really proud of that. But the reality is that I'll be one of 150, other representatives if I win. But I honestly believe that one man can make a big difference, and I intend to make a difference. I want you to know exactly where I stand and what I stand for. And I also want people to know what my opponent stands for. And by the way, all of this is on, we've been publicly, making statements and repeatedly and emphatically. And it's not difficult to find the differences between my opponent and myself. And I'm proud of who I am. I'm proud of what I stand for. And I want you to know that I've been this way my entire life, and I'm not about to change. And you'll have to make up your own mind about my opponent.
Yeah. So how can your constituents or others who want to support you get in touch? What's the best way?
Yeah, so the best way is just go to my website. It's votejohnfrancis.com. It's votejohnfrancis.com. I'm on Facebook. Just look it up, John Francis Campaign.
Awesome. And I know you have quite a few videos about Second Amendment issues and shooting it videos. So everybody needs to go take a look at those. We'll try to drop some of those links in the comments as well, or in the description.
Yeah,
definitely good to take a look.
I have a lot of fun with my guns, and so go look that up. It's pretty fun.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, sir, for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Good, refreshing chat. Thank you, everybody, for listening.
Yeah.
Make sure you check out those links in the description, and we'll catch you later. Thank you.
Thank you.